Hi, boys and girls. Shavua Tov. I'm recording tonight for you chapter 26 and 27. And if it's going to be too long, then I'll have to break it into two recordings because this software only lets me use 15 minutes. Here we go. So there's a famine, there is a famine in the land. And in addition to the famine that we had in the days of Abraham. And Isaac wants to go to Egypt because there's no food. So he goes to Avimelech, the king of Plishtim, in the city of Gerar. Remember, please, Avimelech, king of Plishtim, the city of Gerar. Avimelech, Philistines, in the city of Gerar. And God appears to him and he says, don't go to Egypt. Live in this land. I'll be with you. You have the land and the people. Lezaracha eten et kol ha'aratzot. I will bless you, and unto your seed I will give all these lands because of Abraham. And I will multiply your children like the stars in the heavens. So remember that blessing, please. And why? Because Abraham listened to my voice. So, if you will, it's a compensation for the good deeds of Abraham. And Isaac dwelled in the city of Gerar. Please remember, Isaac lived in the city of Gerar. So whereas Beersheba was the city of Abraham, Gerar is the city of Isaac. And we have a similar story that we had with Sarah. The people in Gerar see his wife and how beautiful she is, and he says that she is my sister, because he was afraid to say that he was his wife, just in case they would kill him to be able to get her. And we're told that she was tovat mar'eh, she was fair to look at. In other words, she was pretty. And he was there for a long time, and all of a sudden Avimelech looks outside and he sees that Isaac and Rebekah are doing something that gave him the message that they're married. And he calls in Isaac and he says, hey, buddy, you told me that she's your sister. I see it's your wife. And Avimelech says, what do you do? Somebody almost slept with her. And Avimelech gives a command that anybody that touches this woman is going to be in deep trouble. Okay, he's going to be killed. And Isaac sowed his crops, and he found that year 100-fold, Mea Shearim. And that became a name of a city in Jerusalem, or a suburb of Jerusalem, and God blessed him. And Isaac was getting very wealthy, and he had lots of sheep, and he had cattle, cows, and the Philistines were jealous of him, and the Philistines were jealous of him, and now there was a problem with the wells, and evidently the Philistines plugged up, they filled it up with earth, and Avimelech said unto Isaac, you have to separate from me because you're too big and you need territory, just like the story of Lot. And Isaac goes away from him, and he is in the river of Gerar, the valley of Gerar, where the river would flow. I'm going to move up a little bit, if I know how to do this. Okay. And Isaac dug wells again for water, and he opened up the wells that Gerar had plugged up, or the Philistines had plugged up in the time of Abraham, and he gave them names, and there were several names. One is Be'er Maim Chaim, and the other one was Esek. Esek, in Hebrew, Be'er Maim Chaim was living water. The second was Esek because they fought over it. And the third was Sitna because they fought over it. And then they dug another one and it was called Rechovot. Rechovot means breadth. They had a lot of space and they didn't fight over that one. And then he goes to live in Be'er Sheva. That's verse 23. In verse 24, God appears to him and says, I'm the God of Abraham. Don't worry, I'm here to bless you. You're going to have lots of children because of Abraham. So it's the third time that God says that you get this because of Abraham. And he built an altar there, and they did another well. And Avimelech came from Gerar, and he is having a conversation with Yitzchak, and he says, Yitzchak says to him, why did you come? You hate me. You kicked me out. You made me leave. Why are you coming here? And Avimelech says, we see that you are a very wealthy man, and we see that God is with you, and we're kind of chicken that we're going to get punished. So therefore, we want to make a deal with you that we should have a covenant. We should have a deal, a promise that we should be able to get along together and live together. And Vayas lahem mishteh, he made for them a party, and they ate and they drank, and they got up in the morning, and vayishavu ish le'achiv, they took an oath, they swore one to another. And shvua and sheva are similar, so they called the place Be'er Sheva because of the oath. Vayhi bayom ahu, and Yitzchak, and they tell each other about, they tell Yitzchak that the servants tell Yitzchak that we found water, and he gave the name Shiv'ah. He gave the name Shiv'ah, and it's not clear from the text. Is it because Shiv'ah, Shvua, an oath, or because they called it Shiva, and therefore they named the city Be'er Sheva? And Esav was 40 years old when he gets married, just like Isaac was 40 years old when he got married. And whom did he marry? He married Yehudit Bad Be'eri Hachiti, Judith, the daughter of Be'eri the Hittite, and another girl, Bosmat, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. You must remember those names. And the Hittite reminds us that this was the guy who sold land to Abraham to bury Sarah, and neither Rebecca or Isaac liked those girls. Now I remind you that Yaakov went to get married from his own family in Haran, and Esav marries girls who are local, and it looks like the relationship is not so great. I have another 7 minutes, so I'm going on to chapter 27. Now we're going on to the story where Isaac is old and he's about to bless his two sons. Isaac was old, his eyes were dim, legend, because of the tears of the angels that fell onto his eyes when Abraham was going to sacrifice him. And he spoke to his older son, I'm getting old. Why don't you go out to the field, find some games, you'll get it from me, and I will bless you. And go to take your weapons, your quiver, the little bag in which you carry your arrows, and your bow, and go find and make me savory food, tasty food, just like I love, and bring it to me. And Rebecca heard, and she assumed that he is about to give him the blessing of land and people. So she tells Jacob, why don't you go to the herd and get some animals, and I'll make it like your daddy likes, and he will give you the blessing. And she thinks the blessing must be the blessing. And go to the flock, get me the animals, and bring it to your dad. And Jacob says to his mother, Ma, Esau is a very hairy man. I'm very smooth. If daddy touches me, he feels me, he's going to curse me. And I'm going to get a curse instead of a blessing. And therefore Rebecca says to him, don't worry, my son. If your father will curse you, your curse is upon me. And Jacob agrees, and he doesn't say, Mom, I can't do that. She took the garments of Esau and dressed him up so he should feel hairy, just like his son. She gave him the good food. Jacob goes in and he says, Daddy, here I am. Who are you? And he says, I'm Jacob, your son. And could you please stand up? And God had given me. So he does all the things that Jacob would. And Isaac is, so to speak, confused. He's confused because he sounds like Jacob. He sounds like Jacob, but he thinks that it's Esau. So he's confused. He doesn't know what's happening. And he didn't succeed in identifying him. So he gives him a blessing. He gives him first the food. And once he has the food, then God blesses him in verse 28 and says, May God give you the dew of heaven and the fat places on earth, plenty of corn and wine. It would be good to know the Hebrew. Vayiten lecha ha'elohim mital hashamayim umishmanei haaretz. And when Isaac finishes blessing him, he just went out, he left, and who walks in? Esau walks in. And he also brings food, but he is not as polite as Jacob, and he says, Dad, get up, I got you the food. And Isaac trembled because he said, oh no, what's happening? So who was just here? Must have been your brother. Well, I gave him the blessing. And Esau heard the words of his father. He cried with a great and bitter cry, bless me too, Father. Give me also a blessing. And he says, well, your brother came here and took your blessing. And Esau is very upset, and he says, this is the second time that he took over from me. Once he took the birthright, and now he took the blessing. And Daddy, do you only have one blessing? And Yitzchak says to Isaac, well, I made him your master, and I gave him servants and corn and wine. And Esau says, do you only have one blessing, Daddy? Bless me too. And he was crying. Esau was crying. You could imagine what a dramatic scene. And he gives him a blessing. Mishmanei haaretz yeh moshavecha umital hashamayim. Behold, the fat places of the earth shall be your dwelling, and the dew of heaven. Please note that Jacob got you first, and fat places on earth second, and Esau got first the places on earth, and second the dew in heaven. So the heavenly was first with Jacob and second with Esau. And he says you will use your sword, and of course, given that he's a hunter, that's a very good blessing. Esau hated Jacob, and he said that I will get even with my brother, and he threatens that he is going to kill his brother. And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary, the daughters of Chet, the wives of Esau. If Jacob should have a daughter from Chet, I rather die. And of course, this was a scheme that she wanted Jacob to leave and go to the land of her family, the city of Haran. So Jacob is going to leave in chapter 28, and we're going to do that later. Good night. Thank you.